Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So I'm actually making this video before the 7th trumpet video, and I'm almost certainly going to replace some of the videos on the Sense playlist that have to do with religion because they came out very bad because I was fumed and they try to make it so I sound manic. So if I speak at a normal pace, they'll probably speed it up a little bit and add certain aspects to it to try to make it so it sounds like mania. And if I speak too slow, they might slow it down and try to make it so I sound retarded. So there's really no winning there in that regard, but there's winning in that I'm manning up and doing the right thing and they're not. Okay. So when we look at this thing, right? We say, why do people who have immoral cultures argue that it's sacred? And I'm not coming at this from a woke position or a proud boy or right wing or left wing or a centrist position. I'm coming at this from actual truth. I'm not a political person. Okay. Technically, my views are, the religious views, but they overlap into the realm of politics, but I'm not a political person. So, for example, if you believed that a church was sacred, would you sell drugs there, human traffic, gamble, and act like a jerk? No. So when we look at what is universally fair, we have to say, hey, is it moral? We see in Buddhism and Hinduism and Jainism and Christianity and Islam and Judaism and on and on and on, we see that they tend to have arguments related to virtues, morals, right? Ethics, scruples, things that are supposed to be worth valuing. Okay, so when we see that they're trying to cheat me out of my rightful place, by default what they're doing is not sacred. It could be the Council of Churches say, hey, you do a lot of things that profane you, and that one is like the bell that rings the loudest. But even if they don't know that you're doing that, they don't believe that you're holy groups, because what you're doing is immoral, and it's obviously immoral, which obviously shows people that you are shameless and you don't find your religion sacred. They're just a means to an end. Mega churches, different denominations, you name it. Okay? For example, if the Mormons believed that their cultures and religion was sacred, would they, do little to nothing, like the Catholic Church and the other churches are doing little to nothing about the sexual immorality in their churches? No. So they're profaned. They don't care. And so it is with the synagogues. And the mosques have certain problems as well, where Muslims won't come out with a logical and point-by-point and moral argument as to what the moral order should be and how people should proceed. Because the terrorists presented a problem to them, right? They say the terrorists were arguing that their order was superior to the so-called moderate Muslims' order, and the Muslims, all of them, they're just people who follow the globalists, right? Their orders are based on, Sunni and Shiite and what have you, orders that come from the governing class, okay? And they operate a certain way. Saudi Arabia, Iran, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, you name it. Okay, Libya, you name it. Northern Nigeria. So as we look at this thing, and we see in Sudan and Nigeria the histories there. We see in Libya how they behave, how they treated Gaddafi, how Gaddafi treated them. We look at the world and we say, hey, if you thought that Islam or Christianity and Judaism and Buddhism and Jainism, if you thought all these things were sacred, you would present an argument that is sound. Okay, that is sound in regards to what the order should be, and it should be simple. Little kids should be able to understand it. There's no reason in the world that you can't put it in layman's terms. In fact, it's even called layman's terms. Okay? So that even the lame can understand. And lame, right? Even the lame can understand it. Because it affects who dates who. Right? Heaven's mandate. Who dates who and why. So when people start pestering me, right? And they start doing things with with racial overtones. Like if a bunch of white Southerners who were Hicks, and obviously, they seem like as racist as they can seem without wearing a clown outfit or something. And they're like, you don't really believe you're Jesus, do you? Okay, it has racial overtones. For example, if you were a Muslim, excuse me, not Muslim, a Hindu, would you go into a synagogue or a Jewish meeting with a swastika deliberately? No, because if you can avoid it, you're not going to do something out of recklessness and stupidity and carelessness and racial animosity that's going to offend them, right? Unless you really had a problem with them, you're trying to go to war with them or whatever, right? It's just not logical. So if you seem like a racist white guy, or you're a cop, or you're something like this, are you going to be like, ah, ha, 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 sure, I believe. Why wouldn't I believe him? And say things like, oh, he's a din-do. He didn't do anything, right? You're not going to say things like that if you have any sense, because it's racist, and everyone knows when it comes to racism and what's the response to racism. Some black guy calling them names, calling the C word because he called the N word. We know the black guy's more in the right. You can't just be a bully oppressor and push around indigenous people, try to force them to do things a certain way, put proxy puppet leaders in their countries abroad and say, why can't they govern? Okay, it's obviously racist. And with that same kind of formula, and sometimes they flat out call me the N-word, I get harassed all the time by government people, and they try to operate in a covert way. You know, people walking by, saying under their breath, what have you. Okay, so that if I called them out on it, I'd look like, you know, the aggressor or something. So it creates a situation where you feel the need to fire back in your video. But if I go on in my video about it, they're going to say, hey, that's hate speech. And you see what they're doing is some bitch ass, hide behind the corrupt government type of tail tucked type of bitch shit. Okay, can you imagine if Goliath's argument was whoever can do that better should rule over the other one? No, because he'd be the laughing stock of the world. Because that's some bitch ass shit, right? You know, if you're superior, you're equal or superior, you're not going to resort to that. Newsflash, hello, newsflash, just in. Someone spell it out from sign language, speak different tongues and languages, because they don't get it. Have someone their race explain it to them, because they're not smart enough to understand it from another race. They don't get, hello. You see what I'm saying? And it's stupid for them to do it. So when we say, hey, well, to be fair, you're demanding your rightful place that you've earned, that your family was righteous every generation for, to build up to, and that's insulting them. Well, if insulting what? It's not insulting any person or culture that is doing something sacred, because as I demonstrated before, it has to be moral to be sacred. If you value your marriage, for example, you won't pass her around to a bunch of kids, okay? It has to be moral to be sacred. The guy who beats his wife every day and lets everyone rape her can't say, hey, don't call my wife a bitch. And the people who are cheating the most righteous person ever possible can't say, well, you're insulting us by telling the truth and doing God's work. That's stupid as hell. And if you don't believe in God, you know that my religion is moral precision. Okay? Universal pinpoint and moral precision. So what I'm doing is universally moral. Pretty straightforward. So now I have definitively proven that people who don't agree with me, who have organized against me, are in the wrong, and I'm in the right. And what they're doing is insulting to God, to themselves, to their families. They're shameless, right? That's why the words rhyme and reason. It says disgrace, embrace and disgrace. So race, it's an issue that has to do with race, and they embrace the disgrace. Rhyme and reason. Again, it's an issue that has to do with race, and they embrace the disgrace. And we all know that, they talk about the biblical patriarchs. So when they say, hey, you're not a Jew, why are you Jesus? Or, he thinks he's Jesus, right? At the end of the day, they've created the situation deliberately for that racial argument to be made. So to some degree, I give them some slack on that, because a lot of people don't understand that, right? But I'm still going to hold it against them. I'm still going to factor it in when it's time to, judge groups. What group is led by monsters who they should see the evil in, who have convinced them that Jesus magically, literally walked on water, and God expected you to believe that proves that he's the Son of God when you didn't witness it. When a bunch of liars come to rape and kill and take your land and say, here, look, read this in a book. God wouldn't expect that. The idea of Jesus is superimposed on the top martial arts. And if you don't believe that, think about it. A lot of people, they go quiet, their jaw drops. They go, what do I say when I say this? I say, if you don't believe that I'm Jesus, then who do I think I am? And what kind of role do you think I have in society? They don't know. They're dumbfounded. They're flabbergasted. They're fucking bewildered. They don't know what to say. because I'm conveying focused, righteous intensity, and they're some kind of lukewarm worm at best. So you've created this fairy idea to cheat me out of my rightful place and respect and the admiration of potential wives. An idea that, if you've done your research, you know is superimposed on me. And even if you haven't, you know that I'm greater than you. But you're like, it's okay because my fairy Jesus says we're all equal, or says, you see, you're not white, and we gave you the religion, or whatever, bitch, we're chosen, we're Jews, or I'm an Israeli. Okay, fucking retarded. So you see how first they insult me, and they cheat me out of my position, and in their own way, by their body language, they're like, well, you're just a fucking N-word. So why should we give you respect? Why should our daughters and our neighbors look up to you? Okay? It's fucking retarded. So if I was to go on and on with racial arguments, I would be right. And the people of the same race as them who own the social media sites and their allies abroad, the crypto Jews in China, would be wrong.